Trump in the news.
Oh, boy. So, I can't wait to hear how you're going to defend this one, CJ, because
I'll think of something.
We know that CJ loves Trump. I really think it has more to do with the fact that he's afraid of his wife. But anyway, because we had her call the show last week, and frankly, I'm afraid of his wife now. But anyway, he pardoned
That was
Sheriff
a caller.
Arpaio.
Yeah. That's news?
He's just letting that sink in.
I don't
a little bit.
I don't know. I'm speechless. I don't
Okay,
know.
well, you got to give the backstory. Number one, why did Arpaio need to be pardoned?
Okay. Well, now, and here's the thing. Arpaio was out there. He was the longtime sheriff in the state of Arizona, and he decided to take it upon himself to direct his police force to start pulling over people who looked Hispanic in descent, to stop them for the specific purpose of trying to determine whether they were legally in the country.
Stop and frisk.
So in essence, it was racial profiling, and it was blatant. And eventually, he got hauled before a federal judge who basically said, this is racial profiling, and you need to stop. At which point, he decided to defy a federal judge's order and continued to direct his police force to racial profile, after which he was arrested and jailed for defying a federal law, or federal order, federal judge's order. All right. So now he's in jail, and Trump pardons him and lets him out.
So wait, he was already going to get off scot-free for doing it in the first place.
No.
For a period of time.
Well, he was.
And then he got a slap on the wrist, and the judge said, hey, you need to stop doing that. And he was all like, okay, judge.
No, he didn't say okay. He said, no, I'm not going to do it.
Which federal court was it that said that?
I don't remember the specific district.
Not that it matters, but
yeah.
Which justice was it?
Which justice was it? All right, so the fact is, okay, whether or not he was racial profiling is immaterial at this point. What really matters is that he defied a federal judge's order and was incarcerated for basically disregarding the law, and has now been pardoned by the president. And I'm sorry, CJ, I can't wait to hear your defense of this. How is this
feel
not
like this is something that needs to be defended?
How is this not basically a presidential endorsement of racism?
There's a couple of different ways to look at this. First off,
okay.
the whole situation, this whole immigration situation, has basically been used as a political football. So before I comment on this whole thing, we all need to acknowledge that nobody on either side of the aisle really wants to do anything about immigration. That's number one. Number two, it's not immigration that is the problem. It's illegal immigration that is the problem. And it has to be addressed. And for years, it has basically been ignored. And I'm not saying that it's something we need to donate a whole lot of resources to, but if we're going to do it. If we're not, let's just stop pretending.
Okay, all right, but let me play devil's advocate here for just a second, because you and I have been doing some form of this show, and Todd as well here. We've been doing this show for a long, long time, and we've known each other even longer than that. And I can remember back in our younger days how you often discussed being the victim of racial profiling in the town that you grew up in. Frankly, I actually experienced it myself. I grew up in good old L.A., and I got a lot of it myself. As a 16-year-old kid, I had a 1973 Cadillac Sedan DeVille, and it was stock, by the way, folks. There was nothing about this car that didn't look like it did when it came off the showroom.
Wasn't chopped and lowered?
Wasn't chopped and lowered. I didn't have the money for any kind of booming stereo. It was literally a 17-year-old car, and I was driving it to and from school. But I looked Latino and got pulled over like clockwork every Friday night.
Latino.
Actually, I'm more Italian.
But you're Latino.
Anyway, so I got pulled over like clockwork every Friday night for quote-unquote looking suspicious.
Yeah,
and
that's not
I
uncommon.
didn't even have so much as a parking ticket on my record.
Here's the difference. Okay, first off, part of the reason why I'm not angered by this is because I just don't believe America is serious about this issue. So I refuse to get all up in arms. We've already got Black Lives Matter that's been screaming about it. It took Facebook, FaceTime, and cell phone cameras to get people to really start having a conversation about the fact that this has been happening for a long time. This is something I, as a black man, have known for years. But until somebody saw a man running across grass and a police officer shooting him in the back and then planting a weapon on him, everybody thought that black people were just like, oh, they're just, they're just talking this. Nobody wanted to take it seriously. That's the thing I have issue with. People are going to do crazy, mean, and malicious things. I don't have a problem with that because I expect that. I have a problem with people, number one, dismissing you when you come to them, telling them, this is what happens. This is how it's making me feel. And number two, even when they're presented with something that might be remote evidence, they're ignoring it. That's where I have a problem. Now, when it comes to Arpaio specifically, again, I'm not surprised. This is Arizona. This is the same state that still does not have a Martin Luther King holiday.
Right.
This is not news.
But this isn't just in the state of Arizona.
No,
this is
absolutely
the federal
not.
government. This is the executive branch.
Okay, so let's talk
giving
about that
this
because
guy
I
a free
believe
pass.
that the fact that he was jailed in the first place was a political move, and his pardon is a political move. And I'm going to come back to the same thing I say every time about Trump. Take it as an endorsement or not, whatever you want to do, but the man is just doing what he told us he was going to do. Why are we acting surprised every time this happens?
I'm not surprised. I'm horrified. There's
Why?
a difference.
Why?
Because he's basically giving the white supremacists the green light.
Why are we surprised? We shouldn't be worrying about Trump.
I'm horrified. I'm terrified.
Here's how you deal with it, though.
Okay.
Number one, you don't cover it for 12 hours on CNN. You don't cover it for 12 hours on Fox. If you really care, then you as an individual get involved in your local politics, go to some community meetings. It starts at the school district level and it goes from there. Pasadena, if you look at their history just in their school district, you'll see that kind of stuff is actually ingrained in the hierarchy of that school system. That's a whole nother story. I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, there's a story coming out of Pasadena this afternoon that there's a principal. Actually, the Pasadena Unified School District now has a lawsuit levied against them because of a principal at one of the elementary schools who was basically going around and threatening to.
He was pulling an Arpaio.
Yeah, he was threatening to call in ICE and start deportation proceedings against parents when he felt they were annoying him in the school, coming in with concerns about their children.
And that's been 2 to 3 years in the making.
That's
but
a verb now.
You have to remember that this,
Arpaio.
They went Arpaio, right? Yeah.
As progressive as the city has become, this is the same city that had a Supreme Court rule that they had to start busing.
Yeah, it sounds
not that
regressive to me. I wouldn't call them progressive at all.
I would argue that it never progressed. I would make that argument, and I think I have a valid.
But
but back to Arpaio.
O.G. Jeshima says, did they get all the illegal aliens in Arizona?
So now let's talk about
I saw Gray yesterday. Chevelle hates aliens.
Oh, man.
Oh, my goodness. Well, let's talk about that, though, because number one, targeting people is bad, but that's something we've been talking about for a long time. But then when you do pull them over, if they are illegal, how do you deal with that? Because they're not citizens, so technically, do they have the same rights? I mean, they're here illegally. They're breaking the law by virtue of being here.
Yeah, that's true. But we do also hold that all men are equal. And it doesn't say anything about citizenship.
No, we don't.
Whatever happened to
inherent in the Constitution?
Give me your tired and your huddled, yearning masses.
If you want to talk about that, that's something that some French guy wrote on a statue in the harbor. That's got nothing to do with America's founding. Okay.
Wow, so you're going to just throw all that right out the window.
Heck yeah.
Hasn't
your huddled masses yearning to
Trump
be free.
has straight up said he doesn't want those people. He said specifically that he's
Take your huddling masses.
We don't want those
Keep 'em.
people. We want the rich people. Rich white people.
I don't know. I want to be outraged by it, but I can't anymore. I can't be outraged because you know me. I spent a long time doing this show where I would do exactly what you said. Like, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Much easier to ignore it.
So you're saying
it's not happening to me.
If you can't beat them, join them. You're going to be apathetic
like
everybody else.
If you can't beat them, join them.
I remember years of doing this show where you railed against apathy.
But people spend way too much time concentrating on Trump. That's a done deal. So I'm going to go back to the thing I said last week. You need to go and you need to talk to your neighbors. How many people actually know their neighbor's name on both sides? How many people know the people's name across the street?
I know one of them and I like him, and I know the other one and I hate him.
I know all my neighbors.
You are the exception, and you know that.
Neighbors are douches. generally.
I'm just saying, people don't know each other.
What have you got against your neighbors, Todd?
Oh my God, they're the
In
worst.
fact, I would venture to say that most people, even if they do know their neighbors, they make contact with them on their cell phones more than anything else. They're sitting there Facebooking each other when they could just walk to the fence and talk to each other.
Jashima says, hey, it's called human rights.
No. That's bullcrap.
All right, so
American rights.
if we
America.
take this table as a microcosm of what's going on
Then we're in
the
trouble.
greater world, let me ask you this question. Do you believe that Trump is uniting this country, or is he doing more to divide it?
I don't think he is uniting it, but I don't think he's doing anything more to divide it.
You don't?
And this is the reason why, if we have to say I endorse Trump, this is the reason why I would endorse Trump. Because what Trump is the big giant flashlight shining on America and showing us what we really look
Is
like.
that a
Because
white
we've
joke?
been like this for
Are
years.
you making fun of his complexion?
No, well, I mean, it'd be orange if that were the case.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's a big giant glow stick.
But
An orange glow
it
stick.
takes somebody like a Trump to get all these people to come out of the woodwork. Now they feel like they can. So people are looking and saying, hey, I didn't know my neighbor felt that way. That's what you're seeing now. Before, they were just too scared to come out. Now they're out in the open. That's the whole thing with Charlotte. That would never have happened with a Hillary president. That definitely wouldn't have happened with a Bernie president because they didn't feel like the climate was right. And then there's another thing that people need to look into that white supremacists have been pushing for at least 30 years, and that is the racial holy war. If you look up RAHOWA, you're going to see stuff that goes back to the 90s, 80s, because they want this.
Yeah, well, don't you think it was better if we kept it sequestered under a
No,
rock
I
somewhere?
don't. No, I don't.
You'd rather have this thing out in the open for...
Because you're still going to have police officers, people in the military who have those feelings but just won't say it out loud. And when they get out of the military after having been trained to be a killer and perhaps cover their tracks, they're going to go join a law enforcement agency and start shooting people in the back while they're running away and planting weapons on them.
And now we know that if they do that, they'll get pardoned by the president. So I don't see how this is better.
I'd rather see it. I'd rather know it than have it happen and have everybody ignoring me when I say it happens. Because that's what's been happening.
Well, does this stuff have more to do with Trump, or does it have more to do with the proliferation of body cameras and things like that?
That all it's doing is it's getting exposed.
Cell
That's the
phone
only thing.
cameras,
It's just
body
getting
cameras.
exposed.
There's so much video of everything that's out there
Except
nowadays.
that every time something heinous happens with the cops, the body camera conveniently malfunctions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why you have to have somebody with a cell phone sitting across the street.
And that's why every time you go see a crime, the first thing they want to do is tell you to turn off your phone.
Yeah.
And I refuse. I honestly, and it bothers me to feel this way, but I really do get nervous still when I'm driving. And I'm wondering, okay, if this officer pulls over and I pull out my cell phone, is he going to think I'm reaching for a gun?
Why would you pull out your cell phone?
Because I don't want the guy to shoot me and not have it recorded. Because my kid's going to get that $1 billion settlement.
Well, like it helped that one guy whose girlfriend recorded him getting shot.
She got a settlement.
She got the settlement. He's still dead.
Hey.
It didn't help him at all.
But his family is taken care of. And his family's not dealing with the narrative that your dad was a dope dealer and we found drugs on him. Because that's the narrative that kids prior to this had to deal with. Your father was a criminal. He deserved what he got. They can't say that anymore.
Well, okay. All right. I'll buy that. I do disagree with you because I do think that Trump is doing more to divide this
I don't
country
think he
than he's
is.
ever done to bring it together for sure. And
Well,
I think
mean, if you look at it by virtue of the fact he's not bringing them together, you could say he's creating a divide. But I don't think Hillary would have done any better.
well, even if those people and I'm not going to debate you at all that those people were in the closet before but felt the way they did. But the fact that they feel empowered to come out and say something about it now really does increase the divide among peoples in this country.
It only forces the conversation, and it's a conversation America has been ignoring.
The problem is they're not
years.
having a conversation. They're turning it into all-out war.
No, because prior to this is what you see. You have all these little activist campus and professors, and you got your Latino studies and Black people studies. We're all talking to ourselves, and it's the same thing happening with them. They're not going to go take all these cultural studies programs. Initially, the thought was, if we can get these people to take these classes, they'll understand our cultures. But they're not taking those classes, so they are not going to understand your culture. So then you go get a job, and they've got this mandatory training where you've got to get some sensitivity training. And you just sit there, and you sit through that class for your 20 hours, and you tune out. And then you go and you collect your paycheck at the end of the week for sitting there on your cell phone.
I'm sorry, what were you saying? I tuned out.
This guy.
Todd, you were going to say something?
we have a this hot off the presses from the around
Oh wait,
midnight
do we need
R&D department.
Do we need some breaking news?
Breaking news?
Where's the breaking news?
Oh, you're so
no.
slow on the
Breaking
trigger.
news.
Too
Oh, my
late.
goodness.
It's broken news
Here
now.
we go.
broken
It's breaking right now.
Oh, yeah, forget it. Go ahead.
Thomas comes in with the hot take that the statement on the Statue of Liberty quote about America, give me your huddled masses, yada yada,
Uh-huh.
was written by American poet Emma Lazarus.
Oh, wait, no.
Boom in your face.